Shalom and welcome to Teshuvah Bible Studies. My name is Van, and this is the first lesson. This is the introduction lesson for our Hebrew class that we are offering at Owasso First Assembly in our local church, as well as online here on my channel, Teshuvah Bible Studies. Since this is going to be a class that hopefully people will watch over and over, I'm going to skip all the introductions and all that other stuff that I usually put in front of my videos, except for this that I am going to, let you guys know that I'm making this very casual. I'm not trying to make it fancy with multiple screens because like I said, people are going to view this more than once, hopefully over and over. And we don't want to waste a lot of time with the introduction. This is going to be the only video that I'm actually saying some of these stuff. On the other videos, we're going to jump straight into the course. One more thing I wanted to mention is that for those of you who have missed previous classes that we are offering Wednesday nights at 6:30 at our church, you can catch up by watching the videos online. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the real class, in our live class on Wednesdays nights. If you want to be 100% sure that the class is going to be available that night, please call the church before you head out. And I hope to see you guys there. With that said, let's go ahead and start with our first class. Okay, I'm very excited. And again, I'm going to make this very casual. So nothing fancy, no pre-written scripts or anything like that. So bear with me if I make mistakes. This is the same as if it was a live class. Okay, so Hebrew basics. This is lesson 1, introduction Hebrew basics. The Hebrew language is very different from any other language. It is indeed a holy language. The definition for holy in the biblical Hebrew is that it is unique. There's nothing like it. And the Hebrew language is exactly that. There's nothing like it. You could study all the other languages of the world, and it will be very different from the Hebrew. The Hebrew is very unique. So let's talk a little bit about the Hebrew language itself. It uses a root system. Shoresh is how you say this in Hebrew. Shoresh, it means root, and it uses a root system. And what that means is that all the words are connected to each other. The root contains 3 consonant letters. So here we have an example of a root for a Hebrew root with the mem, ayin, and the tav. And these 3 letters will form the first word that you're going to learn in the Hebrew language. So it contains 3 consonants. In the Hebrew language, all of the words are read from the right to the left. So that's the first thing that you're going to notice that's very different from English. In the English, we read from left to right. So for example, up here where it says Hebrew basics, we start on the left with the capital H and you read Hebrew basics. But in the Hebrew language, you read from the right to the left. So the first letter of this sentence or of this word is actually the mem, this letter that I'm pointing to right here, which is the letter furthest on the right. So that's the first thing that's different about the Hebrew. There's other languages that do the same thing, but you'll see as I speak through all these things that the Hebrew is very, very unique. The same 3 consonants can have different sounds and meanings related to the root. And that's exactly what a root system means. That we can actually get around 49 different words from these 3 letters. So these 3 letters can say 49 different things depending on the vowels that go underneath it and the letters and the sounds that you make. You could say different things, but they are all linked to each other. And that's one of the things that I'm going to show you guys. So the vowel pattern, which is the things that I just put below this root. These vowel patterns determine how the word is pronounced, and it also determines what the word is saying or what it means. So in this case here, I gave you the main root. The main root of a word is always with the A pattern. So this is an A sound. This is also an A sound. So now we can actually read this word. It is ma'at, ma'at. And it's actually in the form of a verb. So the main root word is in the form of a verb and is also conjugated as he is doing something. So ma'at actually means he is becoming small or he's diminishing. And in this case, the verb means to become small or to diminish. And we'll see again, we'll see how these words are related to each other. So the root always tells you how to translate something or how to understand something, because the root will tell you what that word means, and then whatever it is, whatever other format it is, or whatever other pattern it is going to be related to that root. It is also systematic, right? So when you learn the rules of the Hebrew language, you'll be able to discern all these different word meanings, and you'll be able to read the Hebrew based on the systematic way of thinking. So it's gonna be hard at first because there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of exceptions too. But we have to learn the rules before we learn the exceptions. So sometimes I'm gonna tell you, oh, this is an exception, but I'm not gonna explain it in detail because I don't want to get you guys confused. So I will start telling you that this is an exception, but we'll explore this later. The rules, the majority of the time, 90% of the time, they're going to apply across the entire language. That's why it's not so beneficial to focus on exceptions before we learn the rules, right? And as I was saying, the ma'at is also the third person masculine singular conjugation of this verb. So like I said, it could this ma'at could means, if it was translated in a sentence, it would be he diminishes. He diminishes. I'm gonna take these little breaks. I put these little breaks at the end of each section because I'm giving you guys a lot of information at once. So we want to take these little breaks in between, let you guys breathe and relax, and just understand that over time these concepts are gonna become more and more familiar to you. Repetition is key, and repetition is what's gonna help you a lot when you're learning the Hebrew language or anything in life, to be honest, right? And then this phrase that I use here with a different pattern is something that I like to say a lot when I'm teaching Hebrew. It's me'at me'at. And in Hebrew, when you use two words at the same, like the same words twice, it's usually an emphasis to make that word. It would be similar to our exclamation point, right? Like, so you could say stop, or you could say stop with an exclamation point. So you increasing the emphasis. So me'at, me'at, which is what I put over here, it means little by little. We're going to learn the Hebrew little by little. So just breathe and try to let these concepts sink in. And if you have to listen to the lesson again, and as we go through the weeks, as we start studying this week after week, they're going to become more and more familiar and easier for you. Don't try to like absorb everything at once, which is actually a biblical principle of me'at me'at, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Um, all right, so um, this is the Hebrew alphabet up here: Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion, Het, and this is kind of out of order. Actually, I'll have to fix that later. It should be no. I'm sorry, that's the Tet. I'm sorry, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Sede, Kuf, Resh, Shin, and Tav. So this is actually the Hebrew alphabet, and this is actually the modern Hebrew. It's something I want to also touch on a little bit. This is the modern Hebrew alphabet, how it is written today. It's called Katav Aserit, which is the letter form that was adopted from the Assyrians when the Jewish people were taken captives by the Assyrians and also taken captive by Babylon. They adopted their form of writing a little bit and changed it. So that's what this is known. It's actually also the modern Hebrew alphabet. There are 22 letters, and all letters are capital. So there's no small and uppercase in Hebrew. They are all the same size. They're all capital. And there are 22 letters, unique letters. You're going to see some of these that have the double letters next to them. We're going to talk about it a little bit. So if you count the ones that are written differently, there's actually 27 letters. But still, these two letters are the same letters, and we'll see that in a little bit. Okay, so all 22 letters are consonants. There are no vowels in the Hebrew alphabet. Vowels were added later, approximately when Nehemiah came back from captivity from Babylon, and he wanted to help people relearn the Hebrew and also relearn the Torah. That's when he added the vowel sounds to help people sound them out and speak them out. So that was added afterwards. It's called the Nikud, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I think is next, right? So, so four of these capital letters can also be used as vowels. They can be used as vowels, similar to our letter Y in the English language. So the Y letter, it could be a consonant or a vowel. For example, in the word yellow, the Y here is being used as a consonant. And in the word key, the Y is being used as a vowel. In the similar way, these four letters that are in blue up here, that I highlighted in blue, they can be used as vowels, even though they're consonants. So the Aleph, the He, the Vav, and the Yod can be used as vowels. Usually the Aleph can be used as A, E, I, O, U. They actually could be used in any of the vowels sounds. The Hey usually is the letter A if it's used at the end of a word. The Vav can be an O or a U. And the Yod usually is used as an I in some words and letters. So I give you an example. This is another word that is very well known in English. People say it all the time. I actually said it at the beginning of the class, which is shalom. Shalom. So using the three consonants root system is the shin, the lamed, and the mem, and with that you can read shalom. But like I said, in later as the language evolved and developed, they started using the vav as an o. So this is also shalom. This is the same word, shalom. You don't. There's no difference in how you pronounce it. The only difference is now that you have a vav with the sound of an o. Because that was like I was explaining before, the three-letter root system can be used with any vowel combinations. So when you look at this shin, lamed, mem, how do you know that this is shalom and not shalah, shalom, or something else? Shalom, right? It's that's when they decided to add the vav as an old sound. So to help learning, to help people learn the pronunciation, that's when they added the nikud, as I was explaining a little bit earlier. They added the nikud to help people understand and be able to pronounce the words as they read it. So and now with these additional markings, some are on the bottom, some are on top, and sometimes they're in the middle too. So these vowel markings will tell you how to pronounce this. This is the letter A. So here now we have, and this is also this little dot on top of the shin here will tell you how to pronounce this. So if the dot is on the left, on the right side is a sh sound. If it's the dot is on the right side, is a s sound like in sin. So shin or sin. And the A sound on the bottom. So now sh plus A is sha. Then the lamed has an L sound. This is the vav with the holem. It's called holem vav with the dot on top. That has the sound of an O. If you had the dot in the middle, it would be a sound of a U. So this is shalom. M. The mem is just an M. Shalom. That's how you know how to pronounce this perfectly. As I said, as you get used to it and you learn the words, I would have been able to say that was shalom just with the first way it was written here in green, just with the shin, the lamed, and the mem. I would be able to say shalom. But all these vowel markings got added later to help people pronounce the words correctly. And then there's 5 letters that have what they call a final form in Hebrew that is called sofit. So for example, this is the kaf and this is the kaf sofit. So basically it's the final form. What does that mean? It is how a word is written at the end of a sentence or a word. In the example that I'm showing over here, shalom, the mem at the end of the word here is the mem sofit. So this is how you normally write a mem. And because it is, so if it was at the beginning of a word or in the middle of a word, like we saw me'at, for example, me'at has this mem because it was the first letter of the word. So a mem at the end of a word is going to be written differently, which is this form of the mem, how it is here written shalom. So I picked this word on purpose because the word shalom has all the examples that I wanted to give you guys regarding the some of this introduction to the Hebrew. All right. So another thing that's interesting about the Hebrew is that there are no numbers. Hebrew does not contain any numbers. The letters themselves are used as numbers. So the Aleph is number one, the Bet is number two, the Gimel is number three, the Dalet is number four, and so forth. So all these letters have number equivalents. And there's also, to write 500, 600, 700, 800. There's a different way that they write. They will start over with the Aleph, but it has a different marking on it to indicate that it's 500, 600, and so forth. So that's how they write numbers. So if you wanted to say 31, for example, you will write a Lamed and an Aleph, and that will be the number 31. You will see this in the Torah and in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, how the verses are numbered and how the chapters are numbers. They use this numerical system of the letters. So the letters also represent numbers, and all this is going to be useful for us when we start learning each letter and what each letter means. Again, don't panic. I know this is a lot. Hebrew is not hard. There's just a lot of new information that I'm giving you here. So Hebrew is not hard, it's just different. And there's a lot of information. And all these things that I'm teaching you here at the beginning is something that I wish people would have told me. I've done 4 or 5 different Hebrew classes myself, including one at the university level in the online that is actually out of Israel. So I did all these different lessons, and none of them teaches this way. So there's different ways of learning, and there's different ways of teachings. But some of these things I wish I knew at the beginning, because without knowing these rules, it could get very confusing when you're learning an alphabet. Like when you're learning English, you learn a word and what it means, and that's it. But in Hebrew, no. When you learn a word and you think you got that word down pat, but then when that word shows up again in a different verse, and you think you know the word, it's a totally different word because of these rules. And I didn't know that, and that really confused me. So I'm teaching you the way I wish I was taught. All right, let's keep going. Now we're going to talk about the different forms that the Hebrew was written, right? There's a pictograph, which was the original Hebrew, like the most ancient Hebrew, then the Paleo Hebrew, and then the modern Hebrew. So there's different ways of writing. This would be equivalent to changing fonts, right? You change the font uh, from, in a written document, you can change the font. It doesn't change the meaning of anything. It just looks different, right? And that's exactly how it is with the Hebrew. The Hebrew has been the same ever since it was created by God. The first time God revealed the Hebrew to mankind, most likely to Adam and Eve, it has the exact same meaning. That's why when we study ancient manuscripts, we can know that the message never changed, because even though the language evolved and the way you write it changed, the meaning is exactly the same. It's very interesting, right? So the Proto-Hebrew, which is the very first Hebrew, proto just means first in Latin, used pictographs, which is similar to Egyptian hieroglyphs, right? So it was like a drawing, just like Egyptian hieroglyphs. And the drawing had an actual meaning, had an actual word name, an actual word meaning. So, for example, here I'm showing you the Aleph, how it was written as a pictograph, and it's basically the head of an ox or the head of a bull. And that's what Aleph means. It means ox, right? So again, the picture itself will give you the name of the letter and the meaning of the letter. Even though today we write the Aleph like this, it still means ox. That's still the name and the meaning of the word. And the word Aleph actually literally means ox. And here is the Paleo Hebrew. And you can see a little bit how the Paleo Hebrew kind of looks like an A if you turn it, and it also kind of looks like a 1, which is actually the numerical value for the Aleph. So it's very interesting how the words evolved and the meaning evolved, but it was the same from the beginning, right? And again, this is actually how it was found in a lot of archaeological digs, right? This is the actual proto Sinaitic Hebrew in its pictograph form. You could see that it's almost like a very detailed drawing of a bull. Then it became this more simplistic form so they could start writing faster. And then the Phoenician and the Paleo are very similar. They're just changed a little bit how they write it, and then the Aramaic, right, which is what I was telling you. This is the modern Hebrew is based on this Aramaic writing, Katav Asurit, or Assyrian form of writing, which is similar to Aramaic. So don't worry, you don't have to learn all these, even though I'm going to teach you the pictograph and the modern ones, because it's very, very useful and very interesting to learn the pictograph. A lot of times, because the pictograph will help you define the word. And I'm going to show you that, guys, that as we move along. So it's very interesting and it's very useful to learn uh, the pictograph of the line of the letters. All right. It was the first recognized alphabet where each letter has a phonetic value or sound and can form words. So even though each one of these letters are a word in itself, it also has a phonetic sound. And that's why the alphabet was recognized as the first, the Hebrew alphabet was the first recognized alphabet. And it actually comes from the first two letters, the Aleph and the Bet. Aleph Bet is where they got the word alphabet. And it is the first one, first language. So, for example, if you're studying Egyptian hieroglyphs, there you're gonna learn that there's thousands and thousands of symbols, and each one of those symbols means a single word, and it becomes very hard and very confusing. A lot of times, the same drawing of the same picture was different words, so it becomes very difficult for you to learn systematically. Now, the alphabet, the alphabet in the Hebrew, each one of these has a sound, and then with the sounds, you could construct words themselves, right? It's not like each one of these are used as words when you're writing out in Hebrew, even though they have a name and they have a meaning. That's not how it's used. It's used as an alphabet. All right, so to read scriptures, you need the Nikud. And the reason you need the Nikud is because you need to learn how to pronounce each one of those vowel sounds that go with the consonant, right? And some of those were lost over time. There's like people who study archaeology and study the Hebrew language. They found out there's three or four sounds that have lost their original sound. We don't know how they pronounce them anymore, and that's why you have two T's and you have two S's, and you have some of these have the same sound even though they're different. It is believed that some of these sounds were lost over time, and I apologize that my phone rang here. Um, but even with that, doesn't matter. We are able to learn with what we got, and the difference between these sounds are probably very minor. Just like the A, you're gonna see that there's two symbols that mean A is a strong A and a soft A, and if you're pronouncing it slowly, little by you will notice the difference between those two A's. But when you're speaking normally at a normal speed, you can't distinguish one from the other. So even though there's two A's, you just pronounce them as A. So, okay, so because of this, right, because of these different lost sounds, there are different pronunciations uh, that people use. And that's why you will see me teach you guys a certain word, how to say a certain word. And when you listen to somebody speaking a different dialect, they will say that word completely different, right? This is something that I put here. They're still looking for Moses's tape recorder to find out which one is the right one. So when they find Moses's tape recorder, then we'll be able to decipher which one is the right one. Until that happens, we just have to learn a certain system and ignore the other ones. And that's the only thing we can do. So the one we're going to be learning is called the Ashkenazi version, which is Eastern European. It was actually spoken a lot in Germany, believe it or not. Most of these sounds and the way we pronounce the words is called the Ashkenazi version. There's a Sephardic version, which is from Africa and Middle East and Spain. And there's actually other dialects, including the modern Hebrew. The modern Hebrew is different than the biblical Hebrew. And we don't recommend you learn both at the same time. If you're learning biblical Hebrew, don't try to study modern Hebrew at the same time. You get confused. Some of the rules are different. Some of the pronunciations are different. I could give you an example. The letter He, this letter right here, the fifth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is very well pronounced in the biblical Hebrew and is silent in the modern Hebrew. So, for example, if you're gonna say Yeshua HaMashiach, I just said it in the Ashkenazi version. Jesus is Lord, or Jesus is the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. In the modern Hebrew, they would say Yeshua Amashiach. So there's no Ha Mashiach, they would say Amashiach. And that's how they speak in the modern Hebrew. Some of these sounds get um it's just like we evolve in the English, right? The Shakespearean English is thou art God, thou art God. And now we say you are God. So it would be similar to that. We make it easier to speak, so some of the sounds start to disappear. So in the modern Hebrew, the hey, for example, is not pronounced, but in the biblical Hebrew, it is. And when they read Torah in the synagogues, they do pronounce the hey. But when they're outside speaking with people casually, they do not speak the hey. So that's the difference between a biblical Hebrew, the Ashkenazi version, and the modern Hebrew, which is spoken day to day. Again, I'm going to have a break at the end of each slide, and there's only 4 slides in this lesson today. But I am going to have this break in between, just because if we don't have those breaks, people start freaking out and they start saying, what did I get myself into? This is too hard. There's too many rules. But no, just have fun with it. And this is the best way to learn anything, having fun and letting it sink in over time. And then these concepts are going to become more and more familiar to you until they become something easy for you. I'm literally turning on the fire hose. I'm telling you to open your mouth and turning on the fire hose and dumping all this information on your laps, on your, inside, trying to fit it all into your brain. But don't worry that, you know, let it sink in slowly and naturally. Everything is gonna make sense. Don't worry. Just have fun. All right. So this is the last one, and I'm gonna end with some fun facts for reading. Right. Most modern alphabets also evolved from Hebrew, and that's what I was talking about. You can actually see by rotating the letters and flipping them, because again, we read them from left to right, so it makes sense that you will flip them instead of reading from right to left. So, for example, this is the Aleph in the Phoenician form, and this is the A, and you can see that it is actually looks like the A. The Bait looks like the B. The Kaf kind of looks like the C. The Dalet looks like the D, and so forth. You can see the E here. So you could actually see the letters from the Hebrew if you just rotate them and sometimes flip them. Like this one needs to be flipped over, right? Rotated and flipped over. And you can see that all these letters came from the Hebrew alphabet. And that's something that most people don't know. That's a fun fact, right? And once you learn the alphabet, the rules, and the vowel sounds, you can read everything phonetically. So you'll be able to, once you learn all the alphabet, and once you learn all the uh, how you call it, the vowel sounds, you'll actually be able to read the Bible, the Torah, even though you don't understand what you're saying. You'll be able to read it correctly, phonetically. So words don't need vowels, even in English. So that's something that's not really unique to the Hebrew. It's just that we're not used to seeing the words without vowels. So let me give you an example in English, right? Oh, yeah, this is something very fun and interesting that I saw online. So it says, according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters are in a word, only the only important thing is that the first and the last letter are at the right place. The rest can be um, a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind, blah, 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 blah. So the same way we can read this, because our brains will make sense of it, is the same way how we can read words without vowels. I'm going to show you some examples, right? And the vowels, when the vowels change, the meaning and the sound of the word also change. And that's not exclusive to Hebrew, as I'm going to show you some examples. So we see here 3 vowels, right? So if you read these vowels without any, I'm sorry, 3 consonants, and if you read these consonants without a vowel, you can still see a word in it. So for example, ka, we know the C has the word ka, ka. We know the R has the sound ah, and the D has the sound d. So if you read this, you can say card, card. So we can see that we get a word card, card without any vowels being underneath it. But now when you do add vowels, so I just gave you this first one, card. we could read the word car without the vowels, right? But when you add other vowels, for example, in this case, I added the O, we get the different word. We get chord, like a power chord, and it could be other different types of chords. It have different meanings. And I added up here on purpose because in the Hebrew, the O is added on top, on the top left, like that. And if you add the U, which is again in the Hebrew is added in the middle like this, then you have another word, curd, curd. So this is not something that's unique to the Hebrew. I'm going to give you another example, right? This one is hard, even without vowels. We can see that the word means hard. You could read the word hard just from the three consonants, right? Hard. And it could be something that's hard to do or something that's not soft. So it has different meaning depending on context. So all these things that we forsake in the English language will teach us concepts to learn the Hebrew, which is because they're similar, right? So again, this is a horde, a big a group of a lot of people gathering together can also be called the horde. Usually they call a group of zombies a horde. If you saw the show The Walking Dead, they always call a group of zombies, like a large group of zombies, like a horde. But that's what the word horde means. And all you did was add the vowel O and the E. And again, I placed them in the same location where the Hebrew would add the vowels. And then hired, completely different word with just the vowels being different. So the same three consonants, completely different word. Now, what's unique about, before I go on, what's unique about the Hebrew and makes the Hebrew actually easier and make more sense than the English is that these three words, hired, hoard, and hard, they have nothing to do with each other. Hard and hoard and hired have nothing in common. But in the Hebrew, because the root determines the meaning of the words, they are all related to each other, right? We learned that ma'at means to diminish, to make something smaller. So that's what the main meaning of that three-letter consonant means, to make something smaller. But then we saw it with a different vowel system, me'at, me'at, and it means little. So the word little is directly tied to the root to diminish something, to make something smaller. Little, smaller, little. They're connected, right? And that's what I mean. When you learn a Hebrew root, you will learn your vocabulary will expand exponentially. Because if you know the rules, you're gonna know that that word could mean 49 different things just because of the way the vowel patterns that show under that root, you will know what that word means, which is much, much easier to learn than English, right? In English, you have to learn each word and what it means individually, but not in the Hebrew. So that's it. Me'at, me'at. This is the end of our first lesson. I hope you guys were blessed. Of course, this is in the live class. I'm gonna ask people if they have any questions. I'm gonna do that in between each slide as well. But here online, as I record this, there's no way for you guys to ask any questions. So that will conclude lesson 1, Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. I hope to see you in our class. It's much more interesting and much more fun when we do this live. And if you're one of my students coming over here to listen to the lesson again, that's very good. Yafe, which means very good. You being a good student. And you might need to listen to this several times before it starts sinking in, but it will, me'at, me'at, it will make sense. One of the things that I say in my class, I'm going to say it over here as well, is that this is a biblical principle. Me'at, me'at is actually a biblical principle. And what it means, what does that mean, right? I wish I could download everything that I know from my brain onto your brain and that you will learn it immediately like the Matrix, but that's not how it works, right? And also, little by little, it's the same concept of God giving us the manna, right? The bread that fell from heaven. God told you to pick just enough for that day. If you pick too much, it will go rotten. And if you don't pick enough, you're going to go hungry. So he taught us that principle of the bread from heaven, the manna, where we just get enough for that day, right? So I'm just going to give you enough knowledge to receive in one day, and hopefully it won't go rotten, right? Like hopefully you absorb all that knowledge today and it won't go rotten because there was too much. If I give you too much, you're not going to understand everything. You're not going to be able to absorb everything. And that's the same thing as the biblical principle. And that's something that God did even in creation. God is all powerful. He has no limit in power. So he could have created the entire world, the whole universe, in a blink of an eye, but he chose to do it in steps. He chose to do it in 7 days, right? Actually, he did it in 6 days and he rested on the seventh day. And again, God doesn't get tired. So everything he does with a purpose. He does with trying to teach us some type of lesson, right? So the lesson of me'at is that everything needs to be done in order, little by little. And little by little, you start building up knowledge over knowledge. If you try to do it all at once, if you try to absorb too much at once, you won't retain any of it. And then it's not useful. And if you don't get enough, you will stay hungry and you wish you had more. So I'm trying to make these lessons just enough where I think that you'll be able to absorb it in a week, right? Even if you have to listen to it more than once, you absorb it in a week so that when we start the next lesson, you'll be able to build on top of that knowledge. So that's the plan and the hope that I have here. And that's how I designed this class, right? Hope it's been a blessing to you. I see you guys on the next one. Lehitraot. Shalom. I love you guys.